workbench I have a Jeff Kemp guitar. 1990 Jeff Kemp. Looks like a cedar top, koa back and sides, and a beautiful tone, deep warm tone. The interesting thing about this guitar is it has no radius at all. It's just a flat fingerboard, so it should be a pretty straightforward refret. These they're past their use by date. These frets have been flattened down quite a bit. There's also been an adjustment made here on the intonation, and that may be due to these frets being so flat, because when a fret has been filed down like this, probably to remove fret buzz, then when you fret that, you're not getting the center of the fret anymore. You're getting the front edge of the fret is where that string is now fretting. And so that's going to shorten the string just by 1 millimeter or so, but that'll shift the intonation. So, and that would make that intonation sharp on that string. So perhaps this is why this adjustment has been made to the saddle here. But we'll see. Once it's refretted, we'll check the intonation and see how this is sounding. Check the width of these frets. So they're 2.6 millimeters wide. So that's a jumbo fret of sorts. You know, having a higher fret action means that you have generally a higher string action on the guitar, and that can sometimes boost the tone a little bit. So let's have a look and see what's available in jumbo width frets, and then pick a height. I've got a chart here of standard fret sizes as manufactured by Dunlop, who put out a lot of the fret wire that's available out there. I like working in metric. Thinking in, you know, a 20,000th of an inch seems weird to me. Millimeter seems better. I'm from New Zealand. I live in California now, but I was raised with the metric system, and it just seems so much better. So we've got some options here. I think I'm probably going to go for the 6105. And I like the higher fret wire simply because it makes it easier to finger the guitar. If it gets a lot of playing and it's expected to get a lot of wear, then you've got room to move. You can just recrown those frets when the divots start to appear in them. I noticed the bridge plate seems to have been shaved down at some point, so I wondered whether this was going to need a neck reset. So before I decide on the fret height, I wanted to check whether we were even going to get clearance. I'm pretty sure that with a higher fret, a 1.4 mil fret, it still won't be perfect, but it'll probably ameliorate the need for a neck reset at this point. Probably get away without having to do that for, you know, another 5 or 10 years. Now these frets are 2.6 millimeters wide. The 1.4 millimeter high frets that I'm going to use, which is the 6105, they're only 2.3 millimeters wide, so I'm going to pull these out and just make sure that there's not too much tear out. I don't want to go to a narrower fret if there's tear out when I pull these frets out. So I'm going to use my soldering iron here. I've got my soldering iron warming up. So with a little bit of heat, these lifted out very easily, came up very nicely, very little tear out. So I think this is not going to be a problem. Having a slightly narrower fret, and also now that I've got the fret out, I can measure the height of the tang here and try and get a fret wire that matches that height. This truss rod in here, very easy to adjust, so the guy who built this guitar really knew what he was doing. And when we look down the fingerboard, it's lifting up on the right just a little bit, down on the bottom E string corner there. It's just kinking up a bit to the right. So I might try and take that out, but this fingerboard is looking in great condition, and it's a good hearty fingerboard that's pretty solid. I don't know what this wood is. Being made in Australia, it might be something native to Australia, but it looks like a rosewood. So far so good. This is looking great. Something interesting I've noticed when tightening up the truss rod They don't always, you know, that you tighten the truss rod and it creates a lift here in the center is ultimately what you want to do. To tighten it brings the dip out of the neck, makes it straight. If you over tighten it, then of course you've got it lifts in the middle, so you've got something that's like that. Well, of course that's an exaggeration, but what I find with this particular board is that the lift seems to come at about this point, and it's not even all the way down. It's just a very slight twist has come into the neck over the 30 years since it was built. So it seems to lift in slightly different places. So one of the things about resurfacing the fingerboard is to set the tension on the truss rod in such a way that you're going to make that as flat and smooth as you can when it's under sort of medium tension here on the truss rod adjustment. So what you don't want to be doing is, if you have relief in the neck, that is if you have a dip in the neck and you reshape this and you make it dead flat, then when you loosen off the tension to create relief after you've done your refret, you won't get that dip because you've just sanded it out of the neck. And at that point, well, you can take a smidgen off the frets themselves to create relief, but that's just a lot of work. And so the converse is true. If I tighten up this truss rod here and create a slight rise here, well, when I clean that down dead flat and then release that tension, I'll get a more pronounced dip. But then I should always be able to tighten up this truss rod again to bring that up flat. So that's preferable than. It's good to have a soft lead pencil handy because you can run a little lead down the fingerboard, and then you can see where your sanding beam is actually taking the wood down. As you can see, it's not taking much down up here where the neck joins the body, and that's good. The guitar builder put some fall away in here, so that was a good move because as the neck lifts and as the body changes shape over the years, that fall away allows you to still keep using these frets without actually having to reset the neck, so that's good. But here, really, from where it joins the body all the way down, I want that to be flat, and assuming my beam is true and flat, I'm getting a good, just from the lead pencil, I'm getting a good idea of where the wood is coming off. Okay, I got the frets in now, and I'm getting ready to level them, and of course got my felt tip pen to mark them and see how it's going. In the past, I've used sort of just a generic crowning file here, three-sided thing. I forget the brand name of this, but to be honest, it wasn't expensive and it died pretty quickly. So I'm using a Fret Guru now. It seems to be biting a lot better, and I'll let you know how it goes. So that's a nice refret job. The 6105 frets have allowed a slightly higher action, and there's a very punchy tone coming out of this acoustic guitar. So anybody interested in doing the 6105 refret, I would say I recommend it. I think it gives a bit more sort of a kick off the fingerboard. And of course you've got more metal. So it's I think a slightly brighter tone. And
very good for note bending. Not really necessary perhaps on an acoustics guitar like this, but certainly I would recommend it for a refret on an electric guitar where you're doing a lot of bending. And also, you know, it's working fine here. Okay, that's it for this refret job.